I'm here to talk about Melbourne Water's digital journey with operational data. Before I get into a bit of the journey, I just wanted to share a few high-level facts about Melbourne Water. So last year we treated 432 gigalitres of water, 245 litres of water per person per day. We managed 8 catchments, and for the first time this year, we actually got 50 litres of desal water. From the poo perspective, we treated 309 gigalitres, which is about 175 litres per person per day, which has around 400, our network has 400 kilometres of pipes, and we returned 39 gigalitres of Class A drinking water, sewage water. So that's really cool. There's another bit to Melbourne Water, actually, that I didn't know a lot about, which was our waterways and land. We actually look after 8,000 odd kilometres of natural catchments, waterways and land, which is about 4 metres per person in Melbourne, and around about 13.3 hectares we renewed, and we planted 132 kilometres of new vegetation. So not bad. So why am I here? Well, a few years ago, I was in a presentation very similar to this, and I saw a map, and there was some really cool little trucks moving around, and it was a mining site. Basically, you could see what was going on, and you could interpret this map, and I really had nothing to do with it. And I thought, wow, this is really great technology. So fast forwarding a few years, I had this business case that came across my desk. It was about building a model to do some self-checking in our sewage network. And the idea was that it would help save some money, help our integrated planners have a look at what was going on in our network, and being able to overlay water and storm events to actually see if there's any infiltration in our network. So that was pretty cool. As you can see, what we delivered, some real-time information, a bit of a dashboard, and that's really why I'm here today, is to start talking about that. So I'm going to hand over, before I hand over, I just want to talk a little bit about one of the little bits to this business case. It was an Excel spreadsheet showing our schematic. To me, that was crazy. I know Excel has a place in its business, but not in an Excel, not in the Esri GIS world. So this is what they wanted me to produce, and I thought, hang on a sec, no, that's not happening. So thinking back to the previous conference, I thought, wow, we've got all this really cool technology using geo-event and things like that, and surely we can make this thing come to life.
Andy Chan from the Metropolitan Water Services Planning.
Someone's got a clicker in here. So anyway, this is, thank you, whoever did that one. So I'm going to hand over now to Jeff Purcell, our CTO, just to give you a bit of an overview of this little pilot to production, as I call it, and see where it's at.
Andy Chan from the Metropolitan Water Services Planning came to us last year with a request to automate the accuracy checking of their sewer network model. Currently, they manually extract and report on sewer flow data in order to be able to validate the accuracy of their forecasting. This takes Andy roughly half a day a week, and the refresh of the model costs Melbourne Water $500,000 every 5 years. Rather than just creating a report, we thought to bring together information from 2 systems that we already have, our operational data store ODS and our spatial mapping system Esri, to produce an interactive map. The interactive map displays the forecast versus actual sewerage flows at various field measurement points across the network, with traffic light indicators displayed to quickly and easily identify areas of concern. We can zoom in to specific areas with our summary panel on the right-hand side, pulling out key figures to show how many gauges, if any, are outside of tolerance. It shows the number of field measurement points in the map area and the length of drainage pipe work within that area. Outside of Andy's checking needs, this real-time visualisation of our sewer network will enable more effective monitoring of the status of operations and asset performance that could be used by various operation teams, for example, the water supply network.
So thanks to Jeff. That did cost me a cup of coffee to get him to do the voiceovers. So now we've got this awesome tool, and as you can see, it looks pretty good. It's got all our operational data, it's got real-time data on there, and it allows our operational team to make some really key decisions. At Melbourne Water, we've got an ability to change about 15% of our sewage flow. So depending on how the network's going, we can determine if it goes off to our western treatment plant, which is more organic and natural, or our eastern treatment plant, which is very mech and elec. So tools like this help those decisions, and ultimately help our network. So it was a great success. Everyone loved it. Everyone's like, yes, this is awesome. We can see our entire network. We can see what's going on. So we rushed it into production as you do, and we broke production, and then we fixed production, but ultimately it was there. So what is our production? Well, I wanted to share a little bit about our whole infrastructure. You know, if we're on this journey, it's really about me trying to share everything with you. So this is what it looks like. We've got everything from IoT, from the top right side, through to our asset management system, which is Maximo, through to our Esri system, and other things like our state of the assets and risk and all those other systems that are around the side. And at the very bottom level, we've got our telemetrics system, which is also known as our SCADA network. Basically, what we can do is we can show anything from an IoT device out in the field through to a hard-coded device, through to our state of the assets, or even some sort of inflow, which is our content management system, spatially. So Esri is going to play a big part with Melbourne Water moving forward. So we're in production, we've got this really great tool, and everyone's like, well, what are we going to do with it? So one of the things around Esri is about innovation. So for me, I was thinking, well, we need to get some innovation, we need to get some people around, and we need to start driving this product. So I was lucky enough to be introduced to one of our team leaders in the waterways and land, and over a cup of coffee, we had a chat, and she was saying, look, I've got all these frustrations with our IT systems, and I'm just going to quote these two because I think they're amazing, was, it's so hard for me to get all the information I require from all the different systems, and then to stay on top of the information and relay it to our crews. It's crazy. And it's so time-consuming and frustrating, it's just not digital. So why did my customer want all these things? You know, it's a big list, and I really didn't appreciate it sitting in the ivory tower, what actually happens out in the field. So I couldn't really take you all out to the field, so I've tried to take a bit of the field here. This is Skeleton Creek down in Melbourne Water. It's one of our medium-sized catchments. And as you can see, this is where our teams work every day in these kind of environments. I can see about 15 hazards and risks alone just in this short footage. And I can then appreciate a little bit more about what the data's about. Some of the data they wanted was obviously real-time weather, forecasting weather, the rain, and also the river levels. Because a little catchment like this could actually flood if we have more than 15 mils in 15 minutes. It's not a lot, but it happens very quickly. Our teams go out here and they do everything from lawn mowing, vegetation, weeding, felling trees. And just the other day, we actually pulled a car out of one of these creeks. So the other bit is rubbish removal, which is one of our biggest parts that we do here. So when you go to throw something out, just think about it and make sure it goes in the bin. So one of the other things I just want to talk about while I've got this picture up here is called the Percolin formula, or I'm just going to call it the P factor because it's a hard word to say. I did say percolated the other day. So what it means is the soil absorption, and this is really why I'm talking in the analytics stream today, I think, is because in this dashboard, we've put in a lot of smarts behind it to make it real time and to help people look at things. So what is this P formula? Well, we needed a couple of key factors to get it, and one of them was the maximum soil type for the area and the maximum soil usage for our areas. And for me, I'm not really a GIS person, my background's IT, and I'm like, oh, this sounds like it's going to be tricky. But luckily, the GIS person in our team came up and he managed to pull a few Esri layers from Vic data, pull them together and do some inner spatial queries to pull out the maximum value. I was actually quite blown away at that stage, the power of GIS. So with those values, it plugs it in, and now we can actually see the soil absorption rate for these catchments. So if we're out mowing, we've got heavy tractors, we know that this is starting to get up to that maximum soil capacity. Don't go and mow the area, your tractor might just go in. So what is this operational dashboard that I've been talking about? It's a pretty original name, isn't it? Here it is, and believe it or not, this is my first Esri web app, so please feel free afterwards to let me know your feedback on it. So starting off, it's a very high level, is management. Management can see the regions, they can see the work at a very high level and any kind of environmental change that could cause issues. As we zoom in now, we're now looking sort of at a team leader level. And we can see up here, we've actually got our rain, our rivers, the P factor, emergency services, all that kind of information in this one place. So the team leader doesn't need to go to 5 million websites anymore. It's right there. And they can look in, drill in, and they can get the historical data from our OSI system just to see how much it's been raining or what the river levels are. Also, we've got our work orders. That's another story in itself, which I'll get to in a minute. So really now the team leader can see. But as we move in further, we're able to actually now give it another view once again to more of an operation level. So using our iPads connected to Esri, we can actually now get our teams to look out in the field where they're working, what they're doing, and being able to check a site before they get there. So although it's not 100% real-time image, it's fairly up to date. It gives the team leaders a great place to start just to check out the gates, access, do they need any other keys, what are they doing there, do they need any special equipment, or is it too dangerous, is there too much soil absorption, or is the river levels too high for them to do any work. So I'm also a bit of a high verify guy, and especially if we're using operational systems like this out in the field, they've got to be correct. There's nothing worse than having the wrong information for our operational people to make decisions on. So I thought, well, what's a really good way for me to be a little bit more, high verified than to actually go out on site? So I actually went to one of our offices that was close by, went out on site, had a look. You can actually see the work order in the left corner and the work's being completed. Now we also did a few other checks on the visible checks on the river and rain, but it was great. It was working. So for me, that was a really good tick. So that sort of leads me into the next part of this journey is, well, digital maps. They're the way of the future. I really didn't spend much time within the old, I guess, the static map as they call it. But for me, these dynamic maps are great. We've got a single place now that we're showing 8 different sources, and we're able to bring in more. And also using these filters on the side that you saw in the demo video, we can actually change the whole dashboard for different people rather than having to recut it all. And in the end, it does look pretty cool and management love it. So I also wanted to share my recipe for success, since we're all talking about innovation, the journey, how I got there. So this was a big part of how I got there. I really wanted to share the process that I went through. So for me, one was really sell the product. Once we had the pilot, we had all this great technology, but I really wanted to get out there and get more use cases and more examples. So you've got to sell it and sell it hard. 2, remove the impossible. People only know what they know. Show them demos, show them what can be done. Don't say it can't be done, keep showing. And listen. One of the hardest things that I find is always trying to understand what people are talking about. So take the time, listen to what their problems are. But remember, not all problems can be solved with technology. Sometimes it's just a good cup of coffee. Go out on site. I was amazed when I was actually out on site and looking at these field crews working. I was like, wow, this is amazing. They were chopping trees. They've got all these safety aspects, everything around it. And for me, it really appreciated a lot more about what I was doing. Bake the product. Once you've got a really cool example, go on, move forward. But don't over-bake it. There's nothing worse than waiting till it's 100% to get it in. We got this one in at around the 80%, and from there it's grown, it's taken off, it's amazing. In fact, we're still in the selling mode again, just because everyone's loving it. So don't overcook it, but don't let it cool as well. And then learn. Look, failure. Unfortunately, failure happens. But for me, it's really about a first attempt in learning. Keep going. Maybe on the 200th time, it's time to give it up. But really, don't let that dishearten you. Keep going and stick with it. There were some times here where I was thinking, none of this is working. Oh, it's a shambles. It's not going to happen. Oh, but it will happen. You've just got to be persistent. And lastly, metadata. I'm surprised these days how much metadata we're missing. Like for me, we've got gaps in a lot of places where we should have captured metadata. So please, when you're doing these kind of things, capture the metadata so the next generation of GIS people can really use it. So that's the recipe. But, you know, it's not a journey unless you've actually had a bit of a lessons learned. Be prepared. Like, I was not prepared that this is going to be a 6-month journey. I actually thought, it's only going to be a couple of weeks. So, these things happen. And that's where the work order layer. So from our Maximo system, we've got three different types of geometry that we've got to mash together that would create this work order feature view. I thought, again, you know, from a SQL background, no problems, but that was a lot of work. And that also then led me into knowing who's who in the zoo. So I had to chase around IT, then IT had to chase around our system administrators just to get this thing published. That again. So that took around 4 months, that whole process. But now we know who's who and how it works, so we've actually streamlined it and we've set a bit of precedence around it. Network settings. So with the Geo event server, we had to set the proxy settings so it could go out to the internet to collect the Emergency Services Victoria feed. Unfortunately, I forgot to click the ignore internal requests, and then it just started spinning, which leads me on to backing up. Luckily, we had backed up, so we could restore back. Otherwise, I would have had to have started again. So, future product, future works. So, for me, actually being here around the Esri conference has really opened my eyes up around the three-dimensional capabilities. And what's going next? Like, it's amazing technology. So I'm looking at implementing that. So getting our field guys more of a virtual reality rather than just this very static high-level X and Ys. And we've also got a lot of other stuff. So if there's anything up there you want to have a chat about, feel free. So that really concludes my journey, and I hope I've been able to present it and share it well with you. If there's just one thing that you get from today, look, remember, innovation and ideas start with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael,
No dramas.
and well done on your great work.
Thank you.
So now we just have a couple of minutes for questions. Does anyone have a question for Michael? If you do, could you please raise your hand? And we'll bring a microphone to you.
Hi. Do you have any asset management or scheduling program that you use within for dispatching and planning at all?
Of the work orders, so we use the Maximo Anywhere on the mobile device, and we use Maximo. So the Maximo's got an inbuilt scheduling function, but we are looking at route optimization through the Esri product.
Any more questions? No. I actually have a question for you. Have you been using drones to map for this type of work?
Yeah, so that's something that we've just started investigating. We've got a lot of drone footage. We're using them now for our work orders to be able to see these lands. So rather than having people do manual field walks through waterways and catchments, we're using the drones to fly through first. In that example, we actually use that for weeds. So our teams looked at the footage, and they're able to use the XY coordinates to find where the weeds are, and they're able to efficiently go in. So the next step for me would be putting that kind of footage into the actual operational dashboard, so when they click on it, they can then see that back. So more of a real-time update rather than the year-old maps.
Beautiful. Okay, so we have time for just one more question.
How did you roll it out to the field, and is it being used?
Really good question. So how did we roll it out to the field? Well, it was through the team leaders. Our team leaders were really keen on this, and they really wanted to see the work, see all the information. There were a few problems around getting them that information. So they're really keen to use it because for them it's about safety, ensuring their crew's safety. So it had that really good safety angle. Also work order management, so they're able to see where they're working and things like that. And ultimately it's a tool for view. It's not about tracking or any of those kind of scenarios where you get into the harder parts. So they really took it on, and they're showing everyone. And in fact, people keep bumping into me and go, "Oh, have you seen this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think I know that one."
All right. Okay, thank you very much, Michael.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.